people. Here we go. Some news headlines. Let's go. Hey, young people. Man, I know I'm knocking out a lot of videos on this, but it's kind of updating and kind of changing. And with, more information, everybody can make their own decision. My opinion still hasn't changed, but to me, as the investigation goes, it just goes more and more stronger against this guy. So the dirty laundry killer is what we'll be calling Brian Laundrie. And so they released the 911 tape, and I wanted to reply to a couple of comments. And I just watched Dr. Phil's show, and I wanted to go over what her dad said on Dr. Phil's show, where they interviewed him. Now remember, they interviewed him before he knew his daughter was dead. So the whole show was his dad, which is kind of sad when you're watching it, because his dad's like, I just got to have hope, and I've got to hope that she's okay, and I don't want to think that anything bad happened, and I just want to help finding her. And, there was a lot of things that he said in there that he's a good dude. I mean, you could just tell he's a good, caring dad. And so I'm going to go over some of his comments and some of the comments from this video, and we'll keep this little log running, and I'll add it to the Gabby murder investigation playlist. All right, here we go. So here's the 911 call.
A description of the investigation.
Hi, can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I hear you.
Hi, I'm calling. I'm right on the corner of Main Street by Moonflower, and we're driving by, and I'd like to report a domestic dispute. Florida with the white van, Florida license plate, white land, gentleman.
Where's it at?
5'6" beard.
If the dispatcher would have listened, he gave the freaking address when he first started. Dispatcher too busy doing his little checklist.
They just drove off. They're going down Main Street. They made a right onto Main Street from Moonflower.
Or what were they doing?
But what'd you say?
What were they doing?
We drove by and the gentleman was slapping the girl.
Okay, so he said they identified the van with license plate number, and they were leaving, and he said the gentleman was slapping the woman. That is a clearly domestic violence situation. Somebody is going to jail or getting arrested or should have. And if the cops knew this information when they acted, I might have to change my mind on whether they acted appropriately. To me, it looked like the cops didn't know it was a domestic. But I heard that the reason for the initial stop was it was reported as domestic. But when the cop approached him, he was all talking about the speeding and hitting the cone. He never mentioned that he got a call. They never brought up the call. So I don't know what to believe in that area. But if the cops knew that we have a witness, because he called 911, we have a witness now. We have his phone number. He probably gave his name. We have a witness now that says he was hitting her. And now you do an investigation and come to the conclusion, ignoring that fact and coming up that she was the aggressor, and then you don't arrest her, and then you make them separate when you don't charge either one of them. I would have to change my opinion on the cops didn't mess up this incident. I still don't change my opinion that it's not the cops' fault that she's dead.
Who was slapping her?
Yes, and then we stopped. They ran up
What
into
are
the
they doing?
cooperative, but what'd you say?
What were they doing?
We drove by and the gentleman was slapping the girl.
Who was slapping her?
Yes, and then we stopped. They ran up and down the sidewalk. He proceeded to hit her, hopped in the car, and they drove off.
Okay, you said it's a white van?
This dispatcher sucks. He should have said, what do you mean he hit her? Is this slapping or is this another? He slapped her in the face. Did he punch her with his fists? Was he grabbing her by the hair? This dispatcher sucks.
White van. I give you the license plate. Just give me 1 sec. I took a picture of it.
What kind of white van?
The kind with 4 wheels. I told you I'd give you the license plate and you can run the damn thing. Freaking dispatchers.
Like a big one?
That's what she said.
It was a smaller van with the license plate of, it was white, Florida license plate QFT G03. It was, the make was a Ford, model was Transit, black ladder on the passenger side.
Black ladder, passenger side.
This guy interrupted him. He was going to say black ladder passenger side rear, and the guy interrupted him. So he's going to put out a wrong description.
White Ford Transit.
White Ford Transit. Okay, what's your name?
Okay. So they cut the 911 tape off after that. So, again, this is the 911 call. If the cops had knowledge. Now, sometimes this dispatcher seemed like a dumbass on the dispatching call. So maybe he was a dumbass when he dispatched it. And he might have just said, hey, we got a report of a possible domestic white van, blah, blah, Ford van. And maybe that's all he put out. So maybe the cops didn't know that this person said the guy was slapping her. That was a big error. Again, it still falls down to government because dispatcher, government, the DA, they're all part of the prosecution team. They're all government paid flunkies that freaking do substandard work and get hired because of what bathroom they use rather than their quality of their work or their knowledge. So just a complete cluster. Okay, so now I want to go over a little bit on what happened here. Now, there's a lot of questions about crimes and jurisdictions and all that. Look, if there was a domestic violence that happened in Utah and then they drove to Wyoming and there was a fight there and then he drove to Nevada and killed her and then he dragged the body across to California, usually the state where the crime occurred has the primary jurisdiction. Because it's interstate, we're looking at more federal charges because the feds can get in all the information with a lot less work about rules of evidence, and this state doesn't do that, and this state doesn't extradite for this, and this state doesn't believe that abortion is good, and this state believes it okay, and this state doesn't believe that you should extradite for this reason. I ran into a lot when I was doing child abduction. Some countries would not allow us to get a child back through an extradition treaty if we were going to put the mom in prison. Because they didn't consider stealing your own child a crime that you should go to prison. So if we knew we were dealing with a country that wouldn't extradite them back, we would have to keep following them or try to get them to another country before we hooked them up because we couldn't get them back. Anyway, I digress. Here we go on what he said in the Dr. Phil interview here. So this is a dad talking. Dad said they've known each other for 2.5 years since high school. Long-term relationship. Dad made up a name for him. He made up names for all the boyfriends, and he called him Brianna. So, I just typed down Brianna real quick. It was either Brianna or Brianna. So he says he always gave her boyfriends girl names, probably because she picked soy boys. But anyway, I don't know how many boyfriends she had if they've known each other since high school. But anyway, Dad said he was always respectful and he had no red flags. Man, I'm kind of shocked at that. Dad also said at one point that my daughter knows me. I'm going to involve Dad, and if she's crying or she told me something, that I would get involved and I would fix it. So she probably would not tell me if there was problems anyway. So Dad admitted that. Dad seems pretty type A, bald-headed, kind of a meat-eater kind of type guy. So I'm okay with Dad. Like I said, I think he's a pretty good dude from the interview. They did a trip like this before when they went to California and San Francisco. No problems. So Dad didn't see a big deal that they were doing it again. He was actually helping her with his website, and she would call him with problems, and he would research, and he was helping her post things and get her email account while she was on the trip. Dad never seen them fight, and she never said they fight. Dad was okay with the engagement. When they got engaged, he was okay with it. He's like, hey, if my daughter's happy and she wants to be with this guy, then I'm happy. If he don't do it, I didn't know he was doing anything wrong. So as far as I'm concerned, I was okay with the engagement. Let's see. I was typing these notes too real quick while I was watching the show. Funny how she was at traffic. Oh, okay. This is kind of interesting because they showed a lot of her vlogs or blogs or her video posts, whatever, her little history of things. And every video that she posted, him and her were kissing, smiling, hugging. No, you're booby. No, you're smoopy. Sharing food. I mean, every video they showed. And that's normal. People aren't going to show when they're fighting or when they're upset. They don't like to show their bad side. They like to be on their best behavior when they're in front of so-called their fans or whatever. Just like Hollywood actors. They're all freaking crazy, schizophoric, maniac idiots. And yet, everybody judges them because we only see good about them in their movies. But anyway, so I just found it very funny that her traffic stop where she was crying, emotional, scared, kind of hugging herself, was very, very different than all her blog videos where you see her happy and in control and kissing. And so that just stood out for me. I don't know if that means anything to anybody else. But anyway, Dad has not seen traffic stop video. He said he couldn't watch it. Remember, Dad did this interview when he did not know she was dead. So this is pre-finding the body, and she's just missing. He said he could not watch the traffic stop video because he watched part of it where she was crying. He don't like to see his daughter cry, and he couldn't watch it. So I'm pretty sure he's probably a mess right now. Dad said her traffic stop video was not consistent with her normal behavior. That's key. Dad said she was never diagnosed for OCD and never was on or needed meds. She was self-diagnosed. She said she was OCD because she was kind of clean, but he goes, she just liked things in her place. He goes, it wasn't like manic or really crazy behavior. So that's key. This is what happens when men are in abusive relationships and they find these weak, timid, insecure women. They beat them down. They tell them how they are. This guy was probably telling him, you're OCD. Oh, shut up. That's your thing. You need to be on meds. Don't tell me to clean. This guy probably convinced her that she was crazy. And that's why she couldn't get away. And I picked that up just from the traffic stop a little bit. But anyway, both parents talked to her after the traffic stop. That's also key. Because everybody's like, the cops did it. The cops were wrong. The cops should have. Both parents talked to him several times after the traffic stop. The son talked to him, her brother, the mom, and the dad have all talked to her on separate occasions after the traffic stop. No indications that anything was wrong. Obviously, she was hiding and concealing, which a lot of abused people do. They don't want to looked at as being stupid. They don't want to be told that, why are you with them? You should leave. They don't want to be told by everybody, you're making bad choices. You should do this. You should do that. People make decisions, and they live with those decisions. And a lot of times they don't want to tell people, how to do this. I don't know if you want to call it an obsession, but whatever. All right, so let's see here. You had car. So the dad said he never had the car. He was pissed off that the son drove it back because it wasn't his car. He thought the son should have called him and said, hey, here's the car, here's the keys, etc. He wants the kid prosecuted for stealing the car or grand theft. And he said he brought that up to FBI, but he goes, they want to handle the case their way. My guess is the FBI doesn't want to arrest him for a stolen vehicle charge because they wouldn't leave him out there to make a mistake to help them find a body. Had the cops found the body or knew they were going to find a body or had good indications, just to get him in jail, they may have arrested him for a stolen vehicle. So I go back to my initial point. Why didn't they arrest him right away? I thought they had probable cause without the stolen car. But now with the stolen car, they clearly had a reason to arrest this guy, and they didn't. I think that was a mistake. If he ends up dead, then we'll never know what happened, which really doesn't matter. She's dead whether we know or we don't. And if he's dead, he's not going to be held accountable either way. So it really doesn't matter. But to me, just from a service point of view, I want the guy alive. I want him held accountable. I want to get more details. I want to give the family closure. But government doesn't. I've always said that. Government doesn't give a shit about her or the family. This is all about, somebody said there was over 2,000 FBI agents working this. Okay, so the last text they got, Dad said, the last text they got said, no reception in Yosemite. And that's the text they said, we don't think that's from her. And I would agree. Gabby looked like she was a little Gabby and could talk. I don't see her writing a text like this without saying, love you, Mom, love you, Dad, there's no reception. As soon as you get a section, I'll call you back. I'll see you on the blog, blah, 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 blah. I'm assuming, just from the little I know, that's how her text and communication work. So when you get a text from your daughter who's normally talky, and all she says is, no reception in Yosemite, man, that doesn't sound like her. She didn't say, I love you. I mean, I don't know if they say they love you after each text or see you soon or whatever, but that's a pretty generic text. And remember, I said that from Jump Street. A lot of times criminals will send a text after they kill somebody a day or so later to think they're going to throw off the investigation and make people think the time of death was different and he was somewhere else, etc. So, again, who sent this text? Who thinks that somebody out of the blue found Gabby's phone after she tripped, fell, bumped her head, and died after good old dirty laundry left her because they had an argument? She tripped, fell, banged her head. Somebody found her phone and decided to text no reception in Yosemite. Who thinks anybody but Gabby or Brian sent the text no reception in Yosemite? Nobody has a reason to send that text except Gabby or Brian. And since Gabby was dead, she didn't send it. Rick, you don't know she's dead. Okay, whatever, you freak crazy. Mom, son, dad talked every week. 10 days, they never heard from their daughter, and the family or Dirty Brian would not talk to them. They left phone calls. They sent text messages. They called all three of them. The only one in the Laundrie family that was upset and wanted to help was the daughter. The sister of Dirty Brian was upset and wanted them to help. And the dad actually apologized to her in a video. I got a couple clips that I put on my phone. I'll slide in here. 0 contact from killer since he got back. 0. Never said, how are you? Sorry about your daughter. It was a great trip. Here's your car. Never, nothing. Never even said, I got your car. Here's the keys. Nothing. 0 contact. The cops have the car now. So after 11 days, or on the 11th, they filed a missing person report because they couldn't get anywhere. And probably what happened is they were probably in contact with the police and trying to get help, and they were kind of being blown off. And then when boyfriend, fiance showed up with her car and won't talk to him, everybody went, oh shit, this isn't just a missing person. He killed her. We better get on this. And we need a report. So somebody, I think, told them, you need to file a missing person report so we can start an investigation. Before that, it was just, oh, I'm sure she'll come back. She's online. You really don't have any reason to think of foul play. You know, they're young kids. They were probably getting blown off until the van came back without her, and they probably went, oh, shit, we better get a missing person. That's what something sparked them to get the missing persons. But I don't think when they filed the missing person, that was the first time they contacted police. I don't believe that just from his interview. They called, tweeted, and left messages with the parents and the killer, and no response. Dad seems like a good dude to me, and I think he will kill Dirty Brian if he gets his hands on him, because he's a pretty big type A dude. Police have the van. Dad said they have the van. He can't get in it. He can't say anything. They have it. And he's letting them handle it. That's the only thing I would disagree with Dad about. He's asking them, Dr. Phil asked him, I think I put that in there. Can you tell where her phone was at? And the cops won't tell him whether they have the phone, whether they know where it's at. They're not telling them any information. Look, when you got the cops and they're working an investigation, there's some things that they may not want to tell you, but there is no reason to keep you in the dark and say you're not smart enough to know anything. We're not telling you anything, but we want you at our beck and call when we want to ask you questions. Fuck you. Do not let cops get away with that shit. Cops are allowed to share. There's no law that says I can't prosecute somebody because I shared information with the family. No law anywhere. Okay? You don't want to give them too much information because they may go off the handle and do a press conference and give away things that you're using that might help you. But this guy sounds like the cops have told him, stay out of it. We're not telling you anything. We're running this. And as a father, that wouldn't be happening. So I don't know why he's allowing them to do that. Dad said, I'm not allowed to contact him or be in the area of him or his family. And I don't know if that was an advice from the law enforcement saying, dude, do not get involved. The worst thing you do is get in a fight. You get arrested. I don't know if they told him that or if the attorney said, I'm warning you, if you come within close of us, we're going to fall trap. I don't know where that came from, but Dad was pretty clear. He was not allowed to contact or be in the area. And I put a question mark in the life. I wonder who told him that. I wonder how that. Okay, so what's the other thing that kind of came up here? Somebody asked in a question, can cops question Dirty Laundry Brian when they catch him since he already has a lawyer? Which is a pretty good question. And I think most people would probably think, no, he already has a lawyer. They can't question him. Well, you would be wrong. Because Miranda is specific to the crime. If I arrest you for stealing a candy bar and I read you your Miranda rights and I put you in jail and then they give you a ticket and you're out of jail and I've already read your rights, and as you're coming out of jail I find out you're engaged or you're involved or had prior dealings with a possible homicide, I can question you about that homicide even though you asked for a lawyer when I Mirandize you about this theft case. So Miranda is crime specific. If I Miranda you for speeding, I can ask you questions about the murder. If I Mirandize you for assault, and then I find out you're involved in a murder, I can still ask you questions about that. Now, technically, if you're in custody and I'm asking you questions to elicit an incriminating statement, I must Mirandize you. So if you're in jail, you're in custody, and if I go to the jail and question you about a crime, then Miranda applies. I must re-Mirandize you and say, you don't have to talk to me, but I want to talk to you. Then, if you invoke and say, I want an attorney and I want to remain silent, then I'm done. I cannot question you. So, this question has a lot of ifs, ands, buts, and coconuts, but hopefully I cleared it up. But right now, if they catch him, absolutely. Hey, dude, we just want to give you a ride to the jail, hop in the car. Well, let's see. If he's in a car and he's in custody, that would go back in, and we think he did a crime, that would fall under Miranda. So if they catch him and Mirandize him and he doesn't request a lawyer, yes, they can question him. If they catch him and Mirandize him and he does request a lawyer, they cannot question him. If they don't catch him and he calls them, they can ask him questions about the killing, because over the phone, he's not in custody, he can hang up. So even if you have a lawyer, and even if you have invoked Miranda, I can still question you over the phone anytime, anywhere. Why? Because Miranda only implies or goes into play, and it applies if you're in custody, in government custody, and I'm questioning you about a criminal act to elicit a incriminating statement. All right, so that was that question. The next question was, hey, Rick, if the guy agrees to let the officer enter his vehicle to get his hat, does that give the cop authority to a search of the vehicle? Okay, so this is a pretty good question. So remember when he's on the side of the road on a traffic stop, he said, my head is cold. And I said, I remember seeing a hat on the thing. I'd have said, go get his hat and give it to him. And, do I need to ask to go get his hat? Probably not. Why wouldn't I need to ask him to go in his vehicle without his consent to grab his hat? Well, I'm not grabbing his hat to find evidence. I'm not searching his hat for a criminal offense. I'm getting his hat because he's asked that his head hurts. So, I mean, it would be iffy, like it could be implied consent to go in the car to get his hat. But let's say the cop goes, hey, that's your car and I don't want to search without your permission. Do you give me permission to go in the car to get your hat to put on your head? And the guy said yes. The answer is no, he cannot search the van for other things. However, here comes the if, and, button, coconut. However, if while getting the hat, I look in the middle console while I'm reaching for the hat and I see a gun, I can now seize that gun because it's evidence in plain view and I can seize it. So he can't search it by manipulating, looking in a glove box, picking up the floor mat. That's considered a search. He can't, if the hat is on a dash and I got permission to go get the hat, I can't go looking in the back and moving the seat and doing things. If anything I see, as I go in to get the hat, I'm golden. I can grab it and seize it. Anything that I think is evidence. But I cannot search the car. So hopefully that clears that question up. All right, and here we go. The body was found just to the left of where the van was parked. Okay, somebody, Libby, made this comment. And again, I don't know if it's true or not. If this is true, the body was found where the van was parked, and that's in the van video where that blogger picked up as they're driving and they see the van. If the body was found near there, they've got a really good crime scene. It's not in an area where there's a lot of people. It's not in an area where there'd be a whole bunch of other people. And it's probably going to be pretty undisturbed, even though it was 10 days later. So they have a really, really good crime scene. If this is true, they found the body just to the left of where the van was parked. That's a good crime scene. I mean, it's not good as in, I'm happy she's dead. Somebody will turn it around. I'm talking about that's a good crime scenes are ones that are not able to be, messed up, or somebody can bring in shit, or a bunch of people walking through. You don't want high volume areas of traffic. Crime scenes in public areas are shit crime scenes, because if you don't get it quick, it's totally contaminated. But this place, probably wasn't contaminated, and they're probably going to find some pretty good evidence. Signs of a shuffle, signs of dragging, signs of a fight, feet dragging. I mean, there's probably going to be maybe some old clothes, maybe some broken branches. It's a good crime scene if this statement is true. I know somebody's going to be, Rick, you don't know what you're talking about. They found the body in a different state. Okay, then I don't know. Like I said, if this is true. And then the last thing was a rumor floating around here in Florida is that mom works for DA's office. Now, again, which mom? Mom of the dead child or mom of the killer child? The loons are claiming collusion to help this kid. The loons. Is this the mom? But if true, who's she? Which mom? Who is she? She would probably have knowledge of how to best legally defend the kid. When this first broke, they did go to the house and request it. Who is they? Man, Stu, you gotta work on your motherfucking comments, because this comment sucks. I mean, if you were writing a report for me and you were on my FTO, I would tear this shit up and go rewrite this shit so it makes sense. But since I can't tear this up, I'll just tell you, this damn comment don't make no damn sense, because I got more questions and I can't even answer. Which is the first broke, then they did go to the house and request to talk to the kid, but were handed a card to the lawyer, so they were ready for it. Okay, I think he's talking that the mom of the murderer works for the DA's office, and he's thinking they're in collusion with the lawyers, and that's why. Look, if she works for the DA's office, big freaking deal. If she works for the DA's office and they weren't doing the case and were dragging their feet, then it's an issue. If she works for the DA's office and the DA got wind that he might be a murder suspect of a young child, the DA would immediately said, I'm out, and referred it to the state attorney and said, I don't want any conflict here. So there's a bunch of if, and buts if any of this is true, if I even guess that this freaking comment is what I just read. Jesus Christ, people. All right, let me get to a couple little clippets of the show.
Reaction.
I don't doubt it. Gabby's a lovable person. She's an amazing girl. How could you not love her? She might just be as frustrated as we are. I don't know. I passed judgment, and that was... I heard yesterday Cassie, the sister's interview, and I reacted emotionally without hearing the entire interview. So I would like to personally apologize to Cassie Laundrie, because I heard...
So this guy seems like a really nice guy, and he's trying to... I mean, realize his daughter's been missing for almost 2 weeks now. He's got the FBI in his house. The parents and kid ain't talking to him. All the rumors, all the internet, everything. I mean, just imagine what this guy is going through. So...
The problem with that is that van was Gabby's. So he could leave that van right there. I'm jumping on a plane, tell me where she's at, and I'll be there in a few hours. If I gotta get a private plane...
Okay, so now we know the 911 tape was released, and he was hitting her. Another hash mark to lead most reasonable people to the reasonable conclusion that Dirty Laundry Brian is a killer, and he murdered her. So, but again, look, in all fairness, there is a small chance that she took drugs on her own and that she ran off and tripped and fell, or that Brian left her in perfect condition and someone else killed her. So you people in that camp, you have a good life trying to wander through life. All right, we'll end that there.